Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit West Bengal and Assam today. Will inaugurate major highway projects and the new Guwahati airport terminal building. US launches Operation Hawkeye Strike, hitting dozens of ISIS targets in Syria following deadly attack on American personnel. US Justice Department releases a new trove of documents related to late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Documents largely redacted. References include former President Bill Clinton. And violence and protests continue in Bangladesh. The interim government urges citizens to resist violence. Security heightened. In sports, Hardik Pandya powers India to a 30-run victory over South Africa in the fifth and final T20. Hosts clinched the series 3-1. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will undertake a visit to West Bengal on 20th of December. Prime Minister Modi will lay the foundation stone and inaugurate national highway projects at Ranaghat in Nadia district. He will also address the gathering on the occasion. Prime Minister will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of two national highway projects worth around 3,200 crore rupees. The projects will serve as a vital connecting link between Kolkata and Siliguri. Prime Minister will inaugurate 66.7-kilometre long four-laning of Bara-Jaguli Krishnanagar section of NH34 in Nadia. Thereafter, Prime Minister Modi will also undertake a visit to Assam on 20th and 21st of December. On Saturday, Prime Minister Modi will undertake a walkthrough and inaugurate the new terminal building of Lokpriya Gopinath Bordolai International Airport in Guwahati, marking a transformative milestone in Assam's connectivity, economic expansion and global engagement. Prime Minister Modi will also address the gathering on the occasion. Here, the newly completed integrated new terminal building spread over nearly 1.4 lakh square meters is designed to handle up to 1.3 crore passengers annually, supported by major upgrades to the runway, airfield systems, aprons and taxiways. The terminal sets new benchmarks in passenger convenience and digital innovation. India's first nature-themed airport terminal, the airport's design draws inspiration from Assam's biodiversity and cultural heritage under the theme Bamboo Orchids. The winter session of Parliament in India concluded after 3 weeks of intense legislative activity and marathon debates, from landmark insurance and nuclear energy reforms to detailed discussions on electoral reforms and marking the 150th anniversary of the national song of India, Vande Mataram. The session witnessed high productivity in both the houses. Here are the highlights of the winter session of Parliament by our correspondent Dipendu Model.
The winter session of India's Parliament was held from December 1 to December 19, 2025, with both houses functioning for 15 days. This session recorded high productivity, functioning for nearly 92 hours, with a productivity rate of over 121%. Members displayed enhanced cooperation with the House, sitting beyond scheduled hours and even skipping lunch recess on multiple occasions to complete legislative business. Parliamentary engagement was reflected strongly in debates and discussions. Both houses spent over 40% of the time on deliberations, driven largely by special discussions on the 150th anniversary of the national song Vande Mataram and electoral reforms. The upper house, that is the Rajya Sabha alone, 82 members participated in a two-day discussion on Vande Mataram, and over 65 members of the Lok Sabha participated in this debate. While 57 members contributed to a three-day debate on electoral reforms from the upper house, 59 members contributed from the lower house.
इस सत्र में सभा की उत्पादकता 111% रही।
The Rajya Sabha also saw a sharp rise in zero-hour activity. An average of over 84 notices were submitted per day, a significant increase compared to previous sessions, with more than 15 matters taken up daily. Private members' business also saw strong participation, with 59 private members' bills introduced in the upper house.
The session which ended today was very productive one. I hope that in the coming sessions also we will have more fruitful debates.
ये 2025 का विंटर सेशन देश के लिए बहुत प्रोडक्टिव सेशन रहा है। नरेंद्र मोदी जी का रिफॉर्म्स एक्सप्रेस बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ा है और उसको आगे ले जाने में ये शीतकालीन सत्र बहुत बड़ा काम किया है।
On the legislative front, several key bills were passed during the session. The Sabka Bima Sabki Raksha Bill 2025, which allows 100% foreign direct investment in Indian insurance companies, was passed by both houses. Another major legislation, the Nuclear Energy Bill 2025, replaced decades-old laws governing atomic energy and nuclear liability in India. The government also introduced the Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Grameen Bill 2025, proposing to replace Manrega and increase guaranteed rural employment from 100 to 125 days annually.
The winter session of Parliament has come to a close, and this winter session of 2025 is going to go down in history as one of the most productive one in the recent times, with productivity being recorded at over 100% in key legislation being passed in this particular winter session of Parliament. This time around, the Parliament session has been one of the successful ones in the recent memory. From the Parliament complex in New Delhi, this is the BM model for DD India.
India's heavy lift rocket LVM-3 is set for a launch on December 24th, carrying AST Space Mobile's powerful Bluebird 6 satellite to low Earth orbit. The mission from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre, Sriharikota, will mark one of ISRO's most significant commercial flights of 2025. The 6.5-ton Bluebird 6 will be the heaviest satellite ever placed into LEO by LVM-3. The satellite is part of the AST Space Mobile's next-generation fleet, designed to create what the company describes as the world's first and only space-based cellular broadband network, directly connecting to everyday smartphones. Once operational, it will support commercial and government users, enabling direct-to-device broadband coverage across priority markets. From co-developing defense platforms and sharing advanced systems to aligning on supply chain resilience and energy transition projects, the Netherlands is emerging as a key European partner in India's pursuit of strategic balance and self-reliance. DD India's Jessica Taneja spoke to the Dutch Foreign Minister David van Wiel. Listen in.
Dutch Foreign Minister David van Wiel is on a visit to India. He's met with his counterpart, Dr. S. Jaishankar, the National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval. He's here with us in the national capital. Thank you for speaking to DD India. Tell us about the India-Netherlands defense engagement that we're seeing right now in terms of co-production to technology sharing. A letter of intent was exchanged. With Netherlands' shared concern in the Indo-Pacific related to certain territorial transgressions, where do you see this partnership evolving in hard security domains?
So indeed, we signed a letter of intent on the field of security and defense. It is because we share a lot of interests. We are two countries that are prone to the rules-based international order, that adhere to the freedom of passage on the high seas, which has built our nations and has made them great in trade. And those values are under pressure. So naturally, we find each other as partners there. We joined your Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative. Our Deputy Chief of the Naval Staff will come to India in February to discuss the regional issues and developments. And there will be a Dutch naval ship visiting Kochi in May of 2026. So a lot of developments on the practical side, but I also visited one of your shipyards, the Mazagon shipyard, to see where all your naval vessels are built and to see if we can tighten industrial collaboration as well.
As India and EU near the finish line, when it comes to the FTA negotiations. Now, Netherlands is a key voice within the EU. And how does it view India's insistence on balancing its strategic autonomy with open trade? And do you see any regulatory and sustainability clauses that could potentially cause concern when it comes to finalization of the free trade agreement that we're expecting soon?
So on the first issue, trade agreements, you never know when negotiations are finally through. They are very complex. We are with 27 nations in Europe, with all different economies, different interests. But I do believe they're making good progress and that we can reach the final stages on a short time. I think that we are very aligned when it comes down to balancing strategic autonomy with free trade. We adhere to free trade. We want to have free trade. At the same time, we see players in the world that are less open or less open to having a win-win situation in trade. So balancing that, making sure that we don't have single dependencies, that we diversify our supply chains is definitely an objective that both the EU and India share. And on sustainment and regulations, yes, there will be clauses in there for the benefit of the whole world, I would say, to have common standards so that we bring our sustainability to a higher level.
CBAM, or the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, has been a sticking point in the negotiations when it comes to India-EU FTA. How is the Netherlands advancing India's interest, or in particular to ensure that this issue is ironed out and the negotiations continue on track towards finalization?
So I believe that a lot of negotiations are taking place on exactly this point. And I think that the two sides have to near each other and find a compromise there. I don't know what the latest is. I'm not in the room with the trade negotiator, but I have the full confidence that they will reach a conclusion.
When it comes to the lithography machines of ASML and the abundance windmill energy that Gujarat offers, are we looking at ASML selecting Indian firms to now start manufacturing advanced chips which India needs like the rest of the world?
Well, that might be one of the outcomes of the extensive MOU that we signed. The MOU sees in different areas potential for growth of that relationship, so in the field of research and development, in the field of talent development, but we also noted the wishes of the Indian side to have more production facilities in India.
Moving on to some weather updates now. The Indian Met Department has issued a red alert for North India, warning of dense to very dense fog across several regions in the northern part of the country. The weather agency said fog conditions are likely to persist for the next 2 to 3 days, raising concerns over reduced visibility, travel delays and road safety. Dense fog conditions are very likely at a few places in Bihar, isolated pockets of Jharkhand, Odisha, Gangetic West Bengal and northeast India. Amid widespread flight disruptions caused by fog and low visibility conditions, the Ministry of Civil Aviation directed airlines to strictly adhere to passenger facilitation norms to ensure safety and convenience. As per the directions, airlines must provide timely and accurate information to passengers regarding delays, cancellations, rescheduling and diversions. The advisory further stated that for extended delays, airlines should provide meals and refreshments proportionate to the waiting time. If a flight is cancelled at short notice, airlines are required to offer either a full refund or rerouting on an alternate flight at no extra cost. Airlines have also been directed to ensure priority boarding and necessary support for persons with disability and passengers with medical needs. The Civil Aviation Ministry's direction came as dense fog disrupted operations at the Delhi airport, with at least 177 flights getting cancelled and over 500 flights getting delayed on Friday. You're with us on DD India Live, still to come on the show. Ukraine begins new round of talks with the US in Miami on ending conflict with Russia, with its EU allies also attending. Satvik Sairaj, Rankireddy Chirag Shetty became the first Indian men's doubles pair to qualify for the semi-finals at the World Tour Finals in China. And Christmas stories brought to life inside a Slovenian cave with the living nativity scene.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. On to some updates from Bangladesh. Dhaka and several other parts of the country witnessed widespread protests on Friday following the death of Sharif Osman Hadi, who succumbed to his injuries while undergoing treatment in Singapore on Thursday night. Security was tightened ahead of the repatriation of Hadi's body, which arrived in Dhaka on Friday evening. Additional personnel deployed in the country as the funeral of Hadi will be held on Saturday. The US military launched large-scale strikes against dozens of Islamic State targets in Syria on Friday in retaliation for an attack on its personnel. A US-led coalition had already been carrying out airstrikes and ground operations in Syria, targeting Islamic State suspects in recent months, often with the involvement of Syria's security forces. Trump said in a post on his Truth Social network that US forces are inflicting very serious retaliation, just as promised. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that the strikes targeted ISIS fighters, infrastructure and weapon sites, and said that the operation was Operation Hawkeye Strike. Now, while Syria has reiterated its commitment to combat Islamic State and intensify military operations against the group. Further updates on the much-talked-about Epstein Files. The U.S. Justice Department released a new trove of documents from its investigations into the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, bowing to pressure from lawmakers who forced their disclosure with a new law. The release follows months of political wrangling amid rebellion by some of President Trump's staunchest supporters over his administration's reluctance to make public all records tied to probes into Epstein. Although the Justice Department added a note to the webpage where it posted links to the documents that said all reasonable efforts have been made to redact victims' personal information, but warned that some could be disclosed inadvertently. A White House spokesperson praised the Trump administration following the latest release by the U.S. Justice Department, saying that the release was a testament to transparency of the administration before accusing Democrat politicians of involvement. The U.S. Justice Department will appeal the court rulings tossing out criminal cases against New York Attorney General Letitia James and former FBI Director James Comey, seeking to revive two cases against adversaries of President Trump following a series of legal stumbles. U.S. District Judge Cameron McGovern Carey last month dismissed both cases on the grounds that the prosecutor who brought them, Trump ally Lindsey Halligan, was unlawfully appointed as interim U.S. Attorney for Virginia's Eastern District. Trump pressured the Justice Department to prosecute Comey and James as he called for retribution against officials who have criticized him or pursued investigations into him. Two grand juries rejected a new indictment against James on mortgage-related charges, a rare rebuke for prosecutors. A federal judge in Washington blocked prosecutors from using crucial evidence in the Comey probe without securing a new warrant, ruling that investigators had improperly seized records from a Comey lawyer and confidant. And next, updates on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukrainian negotiators held a new round of talks on a settlement to the conflict in Miami with US and European teams on Friday. Ukrainian negotiator Rustem Umerov said that agreement to pursue their joint efforts were made during the talks. White House envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner also plan to meet Russian President's special envoy Kirill Dmitriev on Saturday. However, no trilateral meeting will be held during the Miami talks. The weekend talks come as Russian President Vladimir Putin in an annual news conference vowed to press ahead with his military offensive in Ukraine, hailing the battlefield gains nearly 4 years into the conflict. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Friday promised not to force Ukraine into any agreement to end the conflict. Talking to reporters, the U.S. Secretary of State said that he might join a portion of talks on Ukraine on Saturday, as he said that progress has been made in discussions to end the conflict, but there's still a way to go.
There can't be a peace deal unless Ukraine agrees to it. And there can't be a peace deal, of course, unless Russia agrees to. But remember that. Any peace deal is one that Ukraine has to agree to because they're a combatant. If Ukraine says we don't agree to it, there won't be peace. So our job is not to force anything on anyone. It is to try to figure out if we can nudge both sides to a common place. And guys, you know, in a conflict like this, in a war like this, that's not easy. It takes a lot of time. We're going to have some patience with it, unfortunately.
On to Africa now. Conflict in Congo has sent over 84,000 refugees fleeing into neighboring Burundi this month in the second major influx this year. The UN described the move overwhelming to the country's ability to respond. A U.S. brokered peace deal was signed in June between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, yet fighting between the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels and the Congolese army has continued around the eastern town of Uvira. Rwanda denies supporting M23 and has blamed Congolese and Burundian forces for the renewed fighting. A report by a United Nations group of experts in July assessed that Rwanda exercised command and control over the rebels. UNHCR's Burundi representative, Brigitte Mukandaeno, told in Geneva that boats full of refugees were arriving daily across Lake Tanganyika from the affected South Kivu area around Uvira, despite pledges by M23 to withdraw. 4 immigrants died in U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody in the past week as deaths in 2025 reached a 2-decade high. The 4 detainees from Haiti, Nicaragua, Eritrea and Bulgaria died between December 12th and 15th. While the incidents remain under investigation, ICE said that the 2 followed medical emergencies and 2 were believed to be the result of natural causes. President Trump has pushed for the mass deportation of immigrants living in the U.S. illegally. To increase removals, his administration has ramped up ICE detention to record levels, with roughly 66,000 people detained as of late November. At least 30 people have died in ICE detention this year. The total for 2025, which still has 12 days remaining, is the highest level since 2004, according to ICE statistics. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has confirmed a new case of highly pathogenic avian influenza in Wisconsin dairy herd, saying it came from wildlife and is not linked to earlier cattle outbreaks. The virus was identified as the H5N1D1.1 strain after genome sequencing completed on December 17th by the National Veterinary Service Laboratories. USDA officials said that this case represents a separate spillover event, unlike most infections in the U.S. dairy cattle that trace back to an initial outbreak in Texas in late 2023 involving a different strain, B3.13. Officials urged dairy producers to follow strict biosecurity practices and report any sick animals or unusual wildlife deaths. Meanwhile, a bipartisan group of U.S. senators has called on the Trump administration to finalize a science-based plan to develop a bird flu vaccine for the livestock. And citing strong customer demand and a delay in next-generation plane certification, Boeing asked the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, for a waiver of airplane emissions rules to allow it to sell another 35 Boeing 777F freighters. The rules to take effect in 2028. Boeing said that the next generation 777-8 freighters, which is expected to comply with the limits, will not be ready until after that date. Boeing said that waiver would allow it to meet anticipated customer demand for cargo planes prior to the 777-8F entering service. Boeing said it was seeking approval by May the 1st. The company has said that it expects to deliver the first 777-8F approximately 2 years after the first delivery of the 777-9, which is currently targeted for 2027. And on to sports news now. India's all-rounder Hardik Pandya slammed a 16-ball half-century to set up a 30-run win over South Africa in the fifth and final T20 in Ahmedabad. The win helped the hosts clinch the 5-match series 3-1. A 105-run partnership between Pandya, who hammered 63 runs off 25 balls, and Tilak Verma swept India to 231 runs for the loss of 5 wickets. In reply, South Africa started strongly thanks to 65 runs by Quinton de Kock, but the opener's departure triggered a collapse and the Proteas ended on 201 for the loss of 8 wickets. Spinner Varun Chakrabarti took 4 wickets. He returned with the 10-wicket haul in the series to be named Player of the Series. The win sealed India's 8th consecutive T20 series triumph, a streak that began in December 2023. India's doubles pair of Sathik Sairaj Rankireddy Chirag Shetty made history at the BWF World Tour Finals in China. They topped Group B and sealed a place in the semi-finals of the season-ending badminton tournament in Hangzhou City. The Indian badminton players became the first men's doubles pair from the country to qualify for the semi-finals of the prestigious tournament. They defeated 2-time Olympic medalist and world number 2 pair of Aaron Chia and So Wui Yik of Malaysia 17-21, 21-18, 21-15 to confirm their place in the top 4. This was the Indian duo's 6th win in 17 meetings against their Malaysian opponents, who had knocked them out in the quarterfinals at the Paris Olympics. And actors and musicians brought the Christmas story to life inside Slovenia's Postinia cave on Thursday, performing a living nativity scene that recreates the birth of Jesus Christ. Take a look. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.